Marcus Hale slammed the door of the crystal hall behind him, his polished shoes echoing on the marble floor. Investors were already seated, murmuring among themselves, glancing at the massive whiteboard at the front. "All right, everyone, let's make history," he said, voice calm but commanding as he adjusted his cufflinks. Sophie Lane weaved through the crowd, balancing a tray of drinks. Her heart pounded, not from nerves, but because something inside her screamed to watch closely. She had spent years buried in lab work, yet here she was, serving cocktails at a high-stakes meeting she shouldn't even be near. Her fingers tightened around the tray. "Just stay calm. Just do your job." Marcus began sketching the formula, his marker slicing through the air with precision. Investors leaned forward, captivated. Sophie's eyes, however, zeroed in on a tiny inconsistency. Two variables swapped. Her stomach twisted. "No, this can't happen. Not tonight." "Excuse me, sir," she whispered, edging closer. "I think there's a mistake in your formula." Marcus froze. The marker hovered above the board. "A waitress? Correcting me?" His jaw tightened. I don't have time for mistakes," he said sharply, scanning the room. "Everyone, this is final." Sophie's hands shook. "Please, I studied this, that variable. It shouldn't be there. It'll collapse the compound before replication." A ripple ran through the investors. Whispers, chuckles. One older man muttered, "Did she just—" Marcus's eyes narrowed. He turned fully to her, irritation and curiosity battling across his face. "Show me," he demanded, lowering his voice. Sophie pointed. "Right here. These two letters. If swapped, the reaction fails. Millions lost. You could look foolish." Her voice wavered despite the certainty in her words. Marcus stared. Seconds stretched into eternity. Then he spoke softly, almost to himself. "You might be right." The room tensed. Investors leaned forward, sensing the shift. Sophie's pulse raced. He's checking. He's actually checking. He retraced the formula in his head, scanning each connection, each variable. His lips pressed together. This is correct," he admitted finally. Sophie exhaled, relief washing over her, but it was fleeting. "It's critical you fix it before presenting to the European partners." Marcus's gaze swept over the investors. "Thanks to Sophie," he said, voice loud enough for the room. "We caught a serious error. Let's correct this." Gasps, then a slow applause. Some investors nodded, impressed. Others were still skeptical, whispering behind hands. Sophie bit her lip, barely daring to hope. "Are you serious?" one young investor asked, voice tinged with disbelief. "She's a waitress." Marcus turned sharply. "She's far more than that." His eyes met Sophie's, a mix of respect and awe flashing in his expression. Sophie's hands shook as she set down her tray. Marcus corrected the formula on the board with a precise hand, and the room exhaled collectively. The tension lifted, replaced by cautious admiration. Later, as the deal wrapped up, Marcus found Sophie behind the refreshment table. "Sophie, wait," he called, and she froze. Her stomach lurched. "You have a gift," he said, voice quieter now, sincere. "I can't ignore it any longer. I want you on my research team. You belong in the lab, not here serving drinks." Sophie's eyes widened. I don't know what to say." "Say yes," Marcus urged, a rare smile tugging at his lips. "I'll make it worth your while." She felt tears sting her eyes, a mix of disbelief and elation. "Yes," she whispered finally, voice breaking. "Yes, I'll do it." The deal was signed. Investors shook hands, still murmuring about the dramatic twist, but Marcus didn't care. His attention was fixed on Sophie, who was already imagining the lab, the experiments, the possibilities. That night, Sophie lay awake in her tiny apartment, the excitement almost painful. "I can't believe this is real. I actually did it." Her mind raced with formulas, ideas, and experiments she thought she'd lost forever. The next morning, Marcus walked into the lab with a rare energy. "Welcome, Sophie," he said, clapping her on the shoulder. "Today, you start changing the world." Sophie smiled, a mix of nerves and determination. "I won't let you down," she promised, though a thrill ran through her. "I've finally found my place." But the challenges weren't over. Investors would watch, colleagues would doubt, and mistakes would come. Sophie knew this was just the beginning. Every formula, every test, every sleepless night now had higher stakes than ever. "Are you ready for this?" Marcus asked, a slight smirk on his face. Sophie straightened, determination in her eyes. More than ever. Sophie's first day on the LuminaTech research floor was overwhelming. Machines hummed, screens flashed, and whiteboards were filled with formulas that once intimidated her. She felt her heart race, but this time it wasn't fear. It was excitement. Marcus walked beside her, a rare, casual smile tugging at his lips. "I know this is a lot," he said, "but you were right. Your mind belongs here." Sophie's hands shook slightly as she adjusted her lab coat. I just hope I can keep up." "You'll do more than keep up," Marcus replied, voice firm. "You'll lead breakthroughs. And don't forget, courage matters as much as skill." Her mind flashed back to the ballroom, to that tense whisper. Courage. That's what got me here. She felt a thrill, a mix of pride, disbelief, and determination, settling in her chest. The investors called again, requesting an update on the joint venture. Marcus led the presentation, but Sophie stood quietly in the corner, monitoring calculations in real time. A minor discrepancy appeared, nothing disastrous, but enough to potentially undermine confidence. "Marcus," she called, pointing to the screen. "That line, it's off by a decimal. It could skew projections." He froze mid-sentence, glanced at the chart, then back at her. "Show me." She walked him through the numbers, her voice steady despite her racing pulse. "If we adjust this, the report reflects reality. Investors will trust the data, not just hope it's right." Marcus nodded slowly. "You're incredible, Sophie. Do you realize that?" She smiled, but a part of her still felt nervous. "I just speak up when it matters." That afternoon, the investors called again. Marcus presented, highlighting Sophie's contributions publicly. "Thanks to Sophie Lane, our data is accurate and our projections are solid. She's already making a difference." Whispers filled the room, but admiration outweighed doubt this time. A few even stood, clapping quietly. Sophie's cheeks warmed. She had never imagined applause like this. She, a former waitress, now recognized for brilliance in front of billion-dollar stakeholders. Back in the lab, Marcus approached her once more. "I have a question for you," he said, leaning slightly against the lab bench. "Do you want to stay here, in comfort, or do you want to chase breakthroughs that might change the world?" Sophie paused, feeling the weight of choice. Her old life flashed before her, the nights at the diner, bills piling up, dreams on hold. "I want to change the world," she said finally, voice firm. Marcus smiled, almost a little proud. "Good, then you're exactly where you belong." Weeks passed, and Sophie proved herself again and again. Each successful experiment reinforced her confidence. She wasn't just surviving here, she was thriving. And yet, every time she solved a problem or corrected a potential mistake, she remembered the ballroom, the whisper, the fear, and the courage it took to speak up. One evening, Marcus stopped by her station. "You know, you've inspired the whole team. People are paying attention now, not just to me, but to ideas, regardless of who voices them." Sophie smiled softly. "I guess I've learned courage is contagious." Marcus chuckled. "And humility is too. That's why we're successful. Remember that for every decision, every breakthrough." The project launched successfully. Investors praised LuminaTech's precision, the joint venture expanded into Europe, and Sophie became a rising star, known for her meticulous work and fearless voice. She often remembered that night, realizing the courage to speak up had reshaped her life completely. As she sat in the lab one night reviewing formulas, her phone buzzed. A message from Marcus appeared. Don't forget to like, comment, and share your thoughts on this journey. People need to see courage in action. Sophie laughed quietly to herself. Even in the busiest moments, Marcus thought about motivation and inspiration. She grabbed her phone, recording a short clip, explaining how speaking up saved the deal. Sometimes, she said into the camera, the smallest voice can make the biggest difference. If you've ever doubted yourself, comment below. Share your story. And don't forget to subscribe to see more real-life courage in action. Weeks later, when the European partners visited, Sophie guided them through the lab, explaining experiments with clarity and confidence. Investors were impressed, not only by the data, but by the courage and talent behind it. Sophie had become the embodiment of opportunity meeting preparation. Marcus observed quietly, pride evident. I knew you had it, he said softly, almost to himself. But you've surpassed even my expectations. Sophie smiled, a mix of satisfaction and humility. I just did what needed to be done, she said, though she knew it had been more than that. It had been courage, intelligence, and timing converging perfectly. The story of that night, the whisper in the crystal hall, spread quietly among colleagues and investors. It became a symbol. Brilliance doesn't always wear a lab coat, and courage doesn't always have a microphone. Sometimes it's in a whisper, at the right time, from the most unexpected person. Sophie glanced around the lab, machines humming, lights bright, possibilities endless. She had come from a world of uncertainty, service work, and quiet dreams, to a place where her voice, her knowledge, and her courage were recognized and celebrated. As she prepared her next experiment, she whispered to herself, "This is only the beginning." And the camera pans out slowly, the lab alive with activity, and the voiceover reminds viewers one final time. Remember, courage and talent can appear where you least expect. Like this story? Subscribe, comment, and share. You never know whose whisper could change the world next.